Hi, it's me, Jessica Lee, and today we are working up a very scrappy orphan block charity quilt for a local group that I meet with once a month. In my posts, you will see a green version, and in my live for the month of June, you will also see it as my backdrop, done up in greens. Orphan blocks, free fabric that the group gave me. I'm calling that one the Jolly Green Giant. I'll insert a picture real quick. So what I came home with from the sewing group was this rough draft image. Some of the measurements were incorrect. This one, some of these sashing pieces, this guy, I needed to add a whole nother chunk. So I rewrote it into the math that I ended up using for the green version. I'll also insert it, I guess, as a picture. I'm not sure if anybody actually wants this, if maybe I can figure out a program to draw it up in. So breaking it down by using all these lovely pieces, I was able to go through my orphan block and pull out anything that read pink. To me, that guy reads pink. I have some fun, funky 100 city sampler blocks here. I have started that quilt twice, you guys. So these, just fun and funky, totally pink. I have some leftover shirting from a memory quilt, and the customer did not want the scraps. Like these two have pockets, which I love. Oh, 3 of them have pockets. But I do not mind mixing, the shirting with the quilting cotton. And then I have some paper pieces from when I taught a class. The charity group had bins of fabric, so I got to dig through and come home with some pink yardage. And then this one, I think is going to be enough to even be borders or the sashing. We'll see. We'll figure this out. This one could even be the sashing, or this one. I mean, I am going to have to probably bring out my pink scrappy bin as well, because I have to grow these orphan blocks into, for example, 8.5 by 20.5. This heart is only 7 by 7. So something's going to have to come over 1.5 inches. And then even if I were to stack one of these guys that are only 6.5, 6 and 8 is only 14, I'm going to need, some type of buffer in there. That is why I am recording this process this time. I wasn't able to do that on the green one because I started it outside of the home. So I did want to walk through it on video in case you guys were interested. I have a pile of blocks from a block swap in 2021. It was pinks and whites. So they are signed and they're from all over the US. I am going to include these. So this is just a lovely strip block. This one is a pinwheel hidden inside of something. There is a name. I have no idea what it's called, but I know there's a name for that. This one's a fun half and half log cabin type of block. Got a shoe fly. This is really neat. I love that the white is poking through. This one's fun. It's like a hidden woven effect. 2, 4, 6, 8. That's an 8 point with like a pinwheel spin in there, or a windmill maybe. Here's that other one. So if I remember correctly, the host had this block as the free block that she offered with the swap, but we can make our own. So you'll see it here in 2 tones. You'll see it here in 1. You'll see it here in 1, and hey, that's me. And then you'll see it here in 1. And then this is a square and a square and a square. And a Jacob's ladder. So I'm excited. That first day when she handed out those that pattern-ish, you know, piece of paper, and I had my Orphan blocks with me, instantly I knew I was going to be able to use them. And so it was, you know, I spent the first hour separating, right? I had the greens, and then I built this pink pile. And then I even built one that is like fun and funky and bolds and brights with some blacks and grays thrown in. So first up is to decipher which of these I want to focus on, right? I look at them as like building a block of a custom size, or even a panel. Like we could build this whole section as a panel. These 3 as a panel. Either way, I need to focus on picking one of them. So to keep it kind of simple, right, I can say 12.5 by 12.5. Well, I already know none of these blocks fit that requirement. This guy is 10.5 by 10.5. So, for simplicity, I would just take a pink, border it one more time to grow it to size. So utilizing my pink scraps, I would just find one, which I really like the bugs. Sold. That was quick and easy. I'm not a fan, I'm not good at quilt math. So instead of saying 10.5 out of 12.5 is like 1 and something on each side of this block. That just makes it not fun for me. So I'm totally gonna make this easy on myself. This is cut really funny. I'm gonna make it easy on myself, and I'm just gonna cut 2.5-inch strips. Nothing around here goes to waste. So when I go to trim it to 12.5, I mean, it can go into, you know, a scrappy bin or a dog bed bin, or I even have a silage bag. Ooh. Just hit the bottom of that roller. I'm probably going to need a new blade now. And you'll notice here on the ruler that it's coming up to be about 13 inches in length. So, perfect. Let's clean this guy off. I'm going to head to the sewing machine real quickly. I will sew these 4 strips onto this block, and then I will be back to trim it down. So here it is, bordered one more time, trimmed to size. I made myself a copy of my penciled in rough draft. I am going to go ahead and check mark that that one is done. So next up will be, let's say, a 12.5 wide by 8.5 tall. Or I can hop over to 8.5 wide by 20 inches long. Let's see what we have. 20 inches long. This one's 19 and this one's 16.5. So we can go to these guys. Can you see it? Oh, there it is. We can do like one of those, one of those. Or actually, let's see, 6, 12, 18. An equal 18. You guys help me out with some math there. I like that idea. We'll go ahead and do 3 of these. 1, 2, 3. They're only going to be 6 wide. Ooh, you guys can't see. See if I can get this better. That help a little? Not really, huh? It's been a while since I've recorded anything. So that'll give us 6, 12, 18 inches in length. But it only gives us 6 wide. Either way, we need to be 8.5. So what I'll do with some scraps is I'll put in bumpers so that I can widen it enough. And then the question would be, do I put spacers? Just that little, you know, inch or 2. 3 of them are too long for the 16, but the 3 of them are just shy on those. So this is where the pink scrappy bin comes into play. Those already have images, so I don't want to conflict with that and put again those ladybugs or these really fantastic cactuses. I'll have to save these for a different part. I don't want to conflict with it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I do have just a fun pink swirly that could work. So again, I would just cut a 2.5 inch, let's say 6.5 and 2.5. Oh, quilt math is not my friend, you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna cut 3-inch straps. I'm gonna put 1 to the left, 1 to the right, 1 to the right, and then I might even come back in. And so what it would do is actually going to make like this little zigzaggy maze around these blocks, which I am totally fine with. I'm going to do these thinner though, maybe 1.5 inches, give or take. It's all trial and error. I am not a professional. That is my disclaimer for this video. I love scraps. I love fun and funky. I don't need it to be stressful, right? This is an enjoyable hobby for me. I'll be right back after I get these cut. So I went ahead, stripped it at 3 inches, sewed 2 of those onto one of the strips. I'll go ahead and come in here and slice it. I don't think I'm going to go in between and do that maze type of effect. Bear with me 2 seconds and we will test run what I have in my head. Keep in mind, my Orphan blocks are not perfect, so some of these are, you know, kind of wonky, kind of missized. I have attempted to do Tula Pink's Modern 100 quilt blocks twice. These blocks that you see here, I had for my birthday. I had purchased, you know, like this big huge bundle of solids and a big huge bundle of prints, and I was so gung-ho and then had no idea what I was doing. So they got put away. But they are getting a whole new life with this quilt, which makes me happy. I'm upside down. Okay, so we have the eggs, we have the strawberries, and we have the ladies. Don't mind all the fuzzy strings. I am going to go ahead and measure this. I am getting almost 19. So I will trim them down to 8.5. I will cut that, you know, off of that pink side. But pictured here, remember I had originally said maybe I'll just put those little 1-inch buffers. I don't want to do that. I'm going to trim them to 8.5. I'm going to build the 3. I'm going to go ahead and take one last, you know, 2 strips of these. I'm going to build the buffer on the top and the bottom. That way when I trim it to either the 19 or the 20, they're being squared off from those. So here we are, sewn together, trimmed up. We are coming in at 18.25. So I either need 19 or 20. I think I'll just go for the 20. Go ahead and sew that on the top, sew it on the bottom, and then trim it to the size needed. I do like this pink fabric. So once we're done with that, then we get out our little notes and we check mark the one that we've completed. Alrighty, here she is. This unit is now 8.5 by 20. Oh, I just realized it was supposed to be 20.5. So it's gonna get trimmed to 8.5 by 19, and we're just gonna call that a day. So now that I fixed the measurements, it is now 8.5 by 19. So it's this bracket here. Go ahead and mark that off. And come up with a game plan for something. One of these. So up next, I'm going to work on this 12.5 by 8.5. And go ahead and bring in a heart. Go ahead and bring in one of these plaids from the shirtings. Together, the width should give me enough wiggle room. Then I was thinking I can insert that guy there. 8.5 tall. So actually, if he goes there, my math might have been completely off. No, he's not big enough. I knew that. Okay. So what I would do is use, because I have so much of it, use the plaid as a bumper. Alright, so after I added the plaid to the bottom, I really wanted it to kind of be symmetrical. So I added the plaid to the top as well. Now I am trimmed to 8.5 with it, which is the height needed for this next section. So it got me thinking, but see how it disappears on the plaid? And that makes me kind of sad. Don't want the star to disappear. So I'm almost thinking of putting it maybe like on a white background. Went off and found this white. So I think that's what I'll do, is I will add the white all the way around this teeny weeny little star. It's going to end up being trimmed really thin anyways, right? Because we only needed that 12.5 to go across. Yeah. Not bad. Completely change of plans after all my mumbling. But that's the fun of doing something like this, is it comes to fruition all on its own as we work through the steps. Alright, so I've added that off-white tone-on-tone around the star. I'm going to go ahead and trim to the 8.5. I can either, right, I could put it in the center, I can off-center it. We'll see what happens. I might just go like that. I'll trim it to the 8.5 and then I'll work on what is needed to bring it to the full 12 and a half. So I trimmed this first side to about 3/4, knowing that it was going to be just a slight buffer. Now I'll go ahead and find that 12 and a half, which is almost 3/4, so I am good with that. Trim it up and mark it off. Let's see here. I'll go 12 and a half. Perfect. And there we go. We have the third one done. That will be this guy here, 12 and a half wide by 8 and a half tall. All the sections are complete, and so now it's just a matter of making the 2.5 inch strips from one piece of fabric that will help me build these together. Oh, decisions. So out of the fabrics that were a part of, the bundle from the group, I have this solid pink, and then I have this printed. I think due to so much movement already in those panel pieces that I've created, I'm going to go ahead and make the 2.5 strips from this solid pink to give our eye a place to rest. Then I'll bring this pretty one back in as the border. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it folded as it is, and then just start stripping 2.5 inches. I'll clean up one side way over here. If you have one of the strip rulers, there's a couple floating around out there. The one I have is a June Taylor. Let me go ahead and grab that. So the one I have is a June Taylor, and it's called a Shortcut JT796. I've seen them. Oh gosh, I thought it was called a shape cut. I could be wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead, I've already cleaned up that one edge. So I'm gonna line that up there. I'm gonna go ahead and take this very bottom, oh, I'm out of screen. There's a very bottom line here. I'll line that up with the fold. Then I'll put that clean edge where I've trimmed it, and then I'll go ahead and find my 2.5s. And there you go. I'll go ahead, sew these together, and then work on pulling. Some of them I don't need to sew together, obviously. That little guy is only 14.5. That's a 12.5, a 12.5, an 8.5. I'll go ahead and piece these into their panels first, and then work on this little 22.5 here. There's some 40s here, a couple 16s. Piece the last ones together into these long strips. That was a 46. I got a couple 50s, the 59s that go around, and see how much is left in case I have enough for maybe another border or even the binding. So you'll see here that when I went to go add those sashing strips, I actually chose to separate these 3 sections. Originally, the 2 thinner ones were on the right hand side, and that big one was on the left. And so I decided I'm going to make this one just a little different than the green version. Separate them and see how this looks in the end. I think that this could be really fun. I mean, I could even take the right hand side, flip it over. I could take the left hand side and flip that one over. I could even take the bottom strip and put it on the top, just to show you guys how universal, I guess, this drawing could be, or how you could take this drawing and completely make it your own. So it turns out for the final border all the way around, I am short on these last strips, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them in half. That way at least I still have a small border using that pink before I go ahead and chop up that printed. I also noticed I needed to adjust one of the sizes. Instead of 19 inches here, it actually is 18.5, which is not bad at all. And so here you'll see is that top without that first border. But on, I'm very, very happy with it. And I like that I flip-flopped those sections. So I took this unit, put it in the middle, took this unit, stuck it to the left. And I am happy with that. So I'll know in any future when I do this, I can always do that again. Or I'll draw it up that way. We'll see. Alrighty, so here is that top with that first thin border put on. Again, using what we have, the 2.5 just wasn't enough. I needed to slice it in half to have enough to go all the way around. It's super cute. So this piece is coming in at a yard. So I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strips with a little, you know, extra for when I clean the edges. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not normally a borderer. It is not a thing that I do. It is not something that I think quilts have to have. But when it comes to these charity quilts, I've noticed I do want them larger because I want them to be universal for, let's say, those preteens or even those teen sizes. And so adding the borders is a great way to grow them, because right now this is sitting at 50 by 59. I'm adding roughly 10 inches, so let's say 69 by 60. To me, that is a little bit more user-friendly when it comes to the older kids. Pretty in Pink is complete, coming in at 56 by 68. I'm very ecstatic with the way that this has turned out. If you've made it this far, I truly appreciate you. A like, a comment, a subscribe, and a share are always greatly appreciated, and I'll see you next time.